Welcome everybody to our virtual town hall meeting for I'm saying September, what the heck?
I wish.
For July, exactly.
Don't push it, please, don't push it.
Not yet.
For July 27, 2022. And I have to my left, Matt Cunningham, who's our facilities director for the board, right?
Correct.
We have Jack Healy, our DPW director, Hollander, assistant superintendent, and Wendy Faulenbach, our board of ed chair. So thank you everybody for coming tonight.
Sure.
And I'd like to start off first, Jack, with you, as far as kind of give us a recap for the public that's watching tonight. Where are we at as far as the unfortunate second fire at Milford High School?
Well, we won't go through the details of the fire. We've been on site now for 3 weeks with a company called Belfort. They've cleaned, they've gone through, and we've already done cleaning the school for the most part. We only have parts of the third floor left to clean. But for the most part, we've gone through and cleaned and prepped the first 2 floors, and we're starting on the 3rd floor. And I was just telling them there, as when I was down there around 4 o'clock, they're bringing in insulation and wallboard and materials, and we're already starting the reconstruction of the school. I think the good news, Mayor, I think we should let people know, there will be no modular classrooms. They're not using those. Our students will be going back into their school, minus a couple of classrooms, but the Board of Education said they're more than willing and able to manipulate the classroom, so we're going to be back into the school. Not as it was, a little bit newer, a little more paint, new fresh paint, but we'll be ready.
Outstanding. I mean, that's great news. I mean, absolutely. I know today we talked a little bit about opening up some of the stuff, and Matt, you can talk a little bit about it. Now we've got the auditorium side.
Sure. The auditorium is going to be available.
Opened up already.
To your point, Mr. Mayor, the student athletes will be able to access the gymnasiums here this summer as part of their prep for fall sports. Band, chorus, music, they will all be able to get into the theater wing here for August, so they're not going to miss a beat.
And you know, Matt, big lift for obviously the facilities, the team over at the Board of Ed side. Now that we know we're going to be open, what's kind of your moving forward to get this thing going? I mean, all these moving pieces. You know?
Belfort is bringing in about 150 people right now. They have, so we are confident that they're going to take care of things like the flooring, the sheetrock, the putting back of ceiling tiles and such. So we're going to focus on when they bring back our materials that have been cleaned, desks, chairs, that those things are located in the right places, that furniture that was brought over there as part of the ESY program will be able to go back to the elementary schools. So really just doing the type of things we would do to prep the schools for fall.
Oh, amazing. And then turning to you, Holly, our assistant superintendent here. I mean, now big lift, you kind of know that we have the school's going to be open. So what's the next steps as far as what you guys are going to be doing?
Teachers are, we're ready. We use the summer to rest and rejuvenate, and we are excited to come back. We're a resilient group and committed and appreciative of all the work of all the teachers, but the high school really comes together as a community. I've talked to the administrative team. I've had a chance to talk with the department chairs. We were ready to do what needed to be done. Now we actually are going to do it the way we typically do it. A little bit of finagling here and there with some classrooms, that's nothing. So we're in good hands. We're looking forward to having our students back and looking back, going back to normal.
And you mentioned the normal. So I just think it's phenomenal as these seniors and juniors, I mean, they've had a really tough so far high school experience when it had to come to COVID and everything else, and to be able to have some normalcy, let's just say, for them to come back, I think is just amazing teamwork.
I was thinking about that in terms of, really being new here, but thinking about some of the high school students not having sort of a typical high school experience, thinking about what might be in place for the fall. And I'm just so thrilled that we will be back in person and really utilizing the whole facility. Appreciative of all the thinking that was going on in terms of Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, do we need a Plan D? And was waiting patiently for you to sort of give us the marching orders, and we have our marching orders. So we're moving forward. The high school administrative team is already on it. Schedules are already being built, so we are ready to go.
Outstanding. And Wendy, I know Pete, thanks for joining, Pete, coming in, appreciate it. I know Wendy, Board of Ed, chairing it, and Pete's vice chair. what are the next steps for the board as we kind of move into this next phase?
Well, there's so many pieces, as you know. Obviously, there's the building use piece. We need to make sure that we're moving along, and that we are. It was super exciting, you know, to all come together and make the have the conclusion that we were not going to bring in portable classrooms and basically almost bring in a whole nother school, so to speak. That's it. You know, so it was exciting there. Then, of course, we have our staff, our instruction, getting ready for students, scheduling, tweaking a few things. You know, we are excited that our website's going to be updated with questions and answers. As we get the answers in, we will post them. If someone asks a question, we'll answer it and post it.
Yep.
So it will change depending on the information that comes in, but really providing the students their opportunity to come back in after 2.5 years of really just an unfair situation, so we're excited to move it along.
That's amazing. And Grant, I'm hoping if we could take it off of the mayor page. I took, Assistant Superintendent, I took your message that was out to the parents and families, but it also had the link on there
Yes.
for people to do that. So if we could put that in the comments so that when you get a chance, you can click that link and that'll take you to where this information will be housed, so it'll be
Yep,
amazing.
it's 2 places. So we put it on our homepage, and then we also put it on the high school's page, which is just like the COVID update one. It's that little button, and it'll take you right to the
Outstanding.
site.
All right. So Ray Liz says good evening to everybody. So hey Ray. Megan says amazing news. Allie says hello to everybody. Hi everybody. And Nancy says great news. So I definitely agree with everybody so far that's talking about this. It's just some wonderful news. And I know Pete, you were with us today when we kind of did a little bit of tour of the north and the south wing. And I know one of the things that you were talking about a little bit about that I know Jack and I know Matt can talk a little bit more about is also in your profession, something that's a concern to parents is the air quality.
Absolutely.
So you were talking a little bit about that today.
I was talking a little bit about that with Jack especially, and it's interesting that, you know, when you talk engineer to engineer, the language is a common language. He knows the metrology of the air quality sample. So, you know, for the parents out there, this is not just to walk into school and sniff and see if you smell smoke, but some of the stuff that we talked about was the encapsulation techniques that they're using, which is a way to sort of seal the flame retardant materials in the building so that the smoke smell or whatever is gone. I have to admit that I walked the school right after the fire with you and Jack and Matt, and the devastation was tremendous. It was just like, oh my God, I don't know how this is going to happen. But there's a sports analogy that says big players shine in the biggest moments, and I have to say that all the players, they're shining. I can sense the collegiality, the way that people are speaking with candor and credibility. Everyone's working towards the same goal. I frankly like talking to Holly. I haven't spoken to Holly so much over the course of the last year and a half, but you know, just the honesty. And it's like, Holly, how are we going to make this happen? And she goes, well, I think we're going to go do this and we're going to do that and we're going to go make it work. I'm filled with a sense of gratitude towards everyone here, and also all the people on the ground, the Balfour people that are going to make this work. The amount of construction that's going on at that high school and how much better it looks. I would open schools tomorrow because it looks that much better. It looks that much better than it did after that fire.
Just hold on there, Pete.
I'll give you another month.
Thanks.
And Jack, you kind of go over for the parents that are watching now and saying this is just absolutely great news. I just heard what Pete said as far as air quality. How do we test for air quality? How does that work?
There's what we call standard methods, and we both do that kind of work, and there are books on and methods that you use as far as taking samples. We will, right now what we've done is we've had an industrial hygienist, Fuss and O'Neill, who is, by the way, is the school's industrial hygienist. We use them consistently for asbestos and other samples.
Radon and asbestos, yes, they do our testing 6-month and 3-year, correct?
So we, Matt asked if we could use them, and we used them in the first fire. They came in and did some initial sampling. While Balfour is operating, I have asked them to do on-site industrial hygiene sampling for the protection of their employees. It's something that we do manufacturing, we do all the time to make sure our employees are safe. I asked them to do that during this process. At the end, once the building is done and we're ready to start having it occupied, we will do what they call clearance sampling. They will come in and there's a set of criteria that you have to follow for health purposes. And there's certain categories, VOCs, particulate, other things like that that you have to do. And they will provide that sampling, and then we will provide that to the school for them to see, and that way we can assure the parents and the students that they have air that is clear. Also, Matt and I, we made some decisions during the first fire that we wanted to change the air handling in the school. We've done some, in the last year, as part of that ESG project, Mayor, the energy project, we had changed some of the air handling. We've gone to a larger, thicker filter. Matt and I talked about it, and we switched the design of the filter to go from just a pleated filter with a relatively high MERV rating, and we've put in a carbon filter back to that. And what that does is that cleans any organics and VOCs out of the air. So the air quality in the school, once we're done, will be better than it was before the fires occurred.
And I know, Matt, we were in the auditorium side,
Correct.
and you were basically talking a little bit about that. Could you talk a little bit more about how that's,
Sure.
with this new method,
So
it's
as
actually
part of the
helping
energy
out?
conservation project that ESG is doing, we went from 2-inch racks to 4-inch racks. And the idea behind that was that we could go from a MERV 8 to a MERV 13 filter. And I think during COVID, we heard a lot about MERV ratings and that extra filtration. As opposed to having just, to your point, Jack, a 4-inch pleated filter that would be good for removing particulates. We've split the difference and gone with a 2-inch pleated to still remove particulates, but a 2-inch charcoal-based filter that's going to remove odor. So we're fortunate in the timing of that it's very advantageous for us right now.
Outstanding. We have a Nancy that says, great news. Pat said, everybody's done an amazing job, and I 100% agree with that. Without everybody working together, there's no way this could have been completed in the time that it's getting done. And I know, Jack, you're telling me now there's well over 100 Balfour employees working in that place as of right now, correct?
We're between 150 and
Right.
200 right now. It varies. If you look overall, Mayor, I'll
amazing.
venture between Balfour, our contractors, the people we have there, and the fire companies, everybody involved, we're probably well over 500 people now who are contributing to the success of bringing this school back online. And, at the end of this, we need to recognize all the
All
people
of
who
them.
have contributed to this.
Absolutely.
And it's constant. It's absolutely, we've been there at all hours, and it's just constant. They're always there. So it's extremely impressive. I couldn't believe it just from being there from last Tuesday to today. So it's
Truly.
fantastic.
And Superintendent, now we know school's going to be open, right? So I'm a parent or I'm a student and I'm like, okay, well, here it is, it's opening up. What's some advice you can give to our high schoolers, our junior high schools? Because school's coming. What's some of the things they should be looking to start doing now?
Well, that's a great question. I think, I'm sure the students are counting the days, right?
Oh, I'm sure they are.
And they should know, how about they should know that we are happy to have them back. We're excited. I know the administrative team, I've spoken to all of them, are making their plans to make it be a great year. Our work continues, no matter what. The work is the work, and we have strong leaders. And we are just continuing the path of making sure that we are providing students with the kinds of experiences that will have them ready for whatever they choose to do next once they leave us from high school. So what should they do? Well, I would say get yourself organized. The mom in me will say, and read, but I have a high school student, that's not likely. But I guess it's important for everyone to know that we have a great administrative team. We have some new assistant principals, and they're fantastic. We have great leadership in place. So I keep saying to people, people say, how are you? And I said, I'm great. I'm surrounded by amazing people. The work is getting done. And so we are moving forward. We're moving forward strong, right? New Milford strong.
Amen, amen. And Wendy, the board now, what's lots on your plate? What's kind of the next steps for the board?
We do. We have a lot. Normally over the summer, we will have a few board meetings with negotiations and things like that. Obviously, that's all changed. This is all a partnership, so we touch base and see where we're going building use-wise. The board will be moving into all of the typical board business, as well as, beginning eventually our full superintendent search. So that search can take anywhere from 3 to 4 months. So we'll be looking at possibly interim leadership and then moving forward. So we can all have a clear structure moving forward and getting through the business. Because before we know it, I hate to say it, we're going to be talking budget. And so, I'm sorry I said it, but, we get into that, it goes on. I'm excited hearing you, Holly, it's so true. I was looking at social media and there were so many yays. Can you believe it? It's actually happening. So it's a good time. And I think there's a lot to be done and we're gonna do it.
And I know yesterday we all met with, not only us as a group, but we met with the insurance carriers, our insurance carrier, the former contractor's carrier, and bond insurer as well, all talking about how we're gonna make all this work. So, there's really 3 projects in kind of one. We have the full remediation, and then, Jack, we have the actual rebuilding of the roof that was damaged by fire, and then finishing off really the standing seam project that started, which is about 40% needs completion. So if you kind of talk about, you and Matt kind of talk about how's that process going to work?
That's a great question. It's actually asked that on the way over here, so thank you.
Part of it's a seamless process, and I guess, and I'm going to go back to Pete and Matt, because we do this kind of work all the time. You've got a contract in Belfort, and they have the capability of doing the first part, which is the cleanup, the remediation, if you will. They have the second part where they can do the science and say, okay, these walls have to come down, stuff like that. But they also have the capability of being a construction firm. So from the town's perspective, it's a seamless process for them to come in and go from the beginning, where they're just cleaning, to construction. That allows us to work very efficiently, because while Matt and I are working on our part and we're meeting with them, every other day, we not just talk about the immediate stuff that we have to today. We're already looking down the road, 3 or 4 weeks, what we're going to do. I play chess, and you're always thinking out like 5 or 6 moves. That's what they're doing right now. They're always thinking ahead and where the next step is. And we've created this team. You mentioned the reconstruction of the roof where the fire was. Well, I'm going to bring Belfort into it again. And initially, they had told us that they were not roof contractors and they weren't going to do that. We've had that meeting, and again, this is where things are moving very rapidly. Since last Friday, they've worked with us. They will reconstruct the area where the fire was, which is very important to us. We had a call today with an infrared company that's going to come in and check the roofs for us and look for areas where there's water moisture infiltration. They're going to do the section where the fire was, and they're going to take it back and remove the insulation materials that were damaged part of the fire and prep that ready so that when we go out in the next couple of weeks and get a new contractor to come in, they will have that already taken care of. That allows us to move the school ahead faster and get into those rooms. Those rooms now will, we get that material out of there, the odor goes away, it helps us move quicker to open up the school.
Outstanding. And Matt, obviously this process, especially when it comes to the roof work, is going to be done during the times when now school's in session.
Correct.
So as a facilities director, how does that work? How are we going to make that work?
So what we were receiving were daily postings of the areas we would be in. We'd share that with the administration there. We'd work with them to make sure students weren't going to be in that area. And sort of using analogy, we played chess there with that every morning and decided where were we going to be and moving. We had the luxury of when they worked over the gymnasium, the weather was good last spring, so we could go outside. So if we were in the theater, we talk about if we could move people there and go to another classroom. So it's a dynamic that you have to deal with on a daily basis.
Right, outstanding. We have some questions. So the first one is to you, Holly. Is the summer of 2023 going to be cut short for New Milford students?
Well, probably, because we're used to getting out earlier, and I guess we're all going to hope for a very mild winter, so we don't have to use snow days. So if that's in place, I think it'll be more on the normal side. And then we typically start before Labor Day. So I think we're going to be hitting a little bit longer into the year than we typically have. So I think we all have to, I know those snow days come, and we want to have safety first. Sometimes they're a nice little prize, but hopefully the winter will be kind to us, because we've certainly gone through our fair share.
Absolutely.
And our goal is to, I'm also sensitive to that some of the buildings get hot. And so we will have to address that, and we've already actually started to talk about that in anticipation of knowing that our days will go a little bit further, so we will have to attend to that as well.
I know one of the things that, for summer school, we were able to rapidly be able to get those air conditioners into some of the schools, right, Matt?
Portable
So
air
we can move
conditioners, we
them
brought
around.
it to Northville School. Obviously, Northville does not have air conditioning. And we had brought all of our summer programs to the high school for the point that it does have air conditioning. And so it makes it a little more palatable for the individuals in there. So knowing that we were moving out of that air-conditioned space, there was a big push to get air conditioning in, almost over a weekend, Jack, I think it was, into Northville. So they didn't really miss a beat, and all those ESY programs were able to continue smoothly.
Can I just say thank you to
Right.
everybody?
That was
That
an
was
amazing-
an amazing feat and truly a team effort, truly.
Absolutely.
Because we could not have done it without your assistance and getting that all set up. And of course, you know, the bus company was incredibly helpful as well, so, and the teachers were beyond
And,
flexible.
Another question for you and for Wendy as well is, what about all the materials that were in the classrooms at the high school? They want to know, can they pick them up? What's the next step in the process for this?
So, yeah, I know, we've talked about
We
that.
have.
And actually, I was just talking to Mr. Best about that this afternoon, that teachers want to know how their things are. Mr. Manka and I walked the entire building last Friday. We opened up every door and cabinet, just for me to be able to see, are the books okay? Is there any kind of, are they warped at all from any moisture? Things look great. I also noticed that, I see the hard work of our teachers, that the materials that they've made themselves, their units and binders, and those look great. The things that were on counters or on desks were packed up and labeled with a room number. And I know that folks are anxious just to kind of go through their things. And so I think, as we discussed,
They're going to have that opportunity.
Yes, we've moved the contents of the teacher's desk. They're boxed, labeled by room number. The file cabinets are labeled, they've been secured and they're labeled. They've all been moved to what we call the Church building. It's a Townhall building on Route 7. We use it normally to store our summer equipment for Public Works, so it was available. Mike Boucher of the highway staff worked with the contractor, and so all those materials have been moved to the Church building, and we will coordinate with the school and the principal, making those available so that in a coordinated fashion, that people go over and go through and see their stuff.
and I know that probably we've also talked about the system in case we need to get materials that we might have lost in a very organized fashion. Fortunately, unfortunately, we now have a clear system from the original challenge that we had in November. So I think our central office, finance department, and Anthony have our
They're cataloging it.
Yeah.
We're taking the requests, whatever is coming in material-wise. They're cataloging it, and I believe you're seeing copies of those as
Yes.
well.
Yes,
They're
I am.
coming over to you.
Yep.
So, to the staff, regarding materials, if you need them, we request them, you'll have them. Rest assured, you'll have them, because you must, so we understand that.
And Wendy and Holly, are you guys going to have for those teachers that want to access this, are you going to come up with a process for them to go to the Chiric building, or is that kind of something we're working in process now?
I believe, you mean to go and take a look at their
Correct.
belongings, as Jack said, and I think we need to break it down where it's specified and orderly, so someone can go in,
Yep.
and I think that we can go ahead and arrange that. So in other words, you might be able to take a look or talk to Holly or Matt and see how we can get our staff in there and open it up where each staff member can go in.
Room number. I think we're gonna
Yes.
have to go by room numbers.
That's probably right.
Yeah, or maybe departments might be a nice way, because they're in the same area.
But we will say, as I was leaving today, I had a faculty member come to me and say, do you have some staff that they need access to the building for some records and things like that? And the first thing that Jack said is, just tell me, we'll make it happen.
That's what I'm talking
And the relief was, great, I can go back and make that happen. So, I think that as long as there's a plan in place about, who's going into the building safely, what they're going for through you, obviously, and then there's another area to access those, the contents of, what the teachers would like to go to, I think we'll get that done.
So we have, I'm probably gonna mispronounce your name, Lorraine Lizio Maloney. She says Slay. So I think that's a good thing. That's what I'm thinking, right? I'm thinking that's a good thing.
Is it Pete? Okay.
Lori says super news. Councilman Cosgrove, thanks for tuning in. He says, great work by everyone involved, astounding process. Kimberly has a question. Has graduation date been set already?
No.
Okay.
It is brought to the board in September, typically, and voted on by the board at the September meeting.
And Sarah Wells Anderson, and I know Sarah, say hi to mom and dad. Here's a question that I'm sure you're gonna get or have already gotten. Will juniors and seniors still be able to park at the school?
That, yes, so go ahead, but.
Well, I
you know,
I think we're happy to say, thanks to the good work, we're gonna make that happen.
we just don't know what it's going to look like yet. It's going to depend on what section of the space out there is being used by our contractors,
Sure.
the workforce, and as you stated, because I said, I just got this on the way over here, we literally have 3 projects at once. And so whatever space, as we get closer, we will determine what we have. That's one of the things most likely that will go up on the website. We know that there will be student parking. Fair enough, we don't know how much.
Absolutely. Paul Murphy, thanks Paul for tuning in. He's saying, watching and grateful for the team we have repairing our school. Absolutely. Karen Balsey had asked, if the roof project will be worked on while school is in session, how will the safety of the students and staff in the building be ensured during their process? So Jack and Matt, how's that gonna work?
Well, the number one, they won't be using any torches. I'm going to say that.
Yeah, no hot work.
No hot work. It's all cold work from now on. There's a safety plan, and as part of that safety plan, one of the processes we implemented before is they must submit a daily report to myself, to Matt, Dean Petroselli, our architect, and to the superintendent and to the principal of the school. And they coordinate that. I'm going to leave it over to Matt because I get the report. I look at it from a safety standpoint, but Matt uses it for a lot of other purposes.
So we know on our Thursday weekly meetings sort of the neck of the woods they're going to be in. So unless there's something that would change weather-wise or material-wise, which we don't expect, the majority of the materials are on site now, then we sort of know what we're going to be up against, and we can have an idea of what area of the building they're going to be in, and we can ensure that students aren't directly underneath that area. That was something we implemented there towards the beginning of the project. And as I said, it's a daily communication, it's a daily figuring out of where they'll be and what classes we need to move, if any. Sometimes if they're over the attic area, for instance, there's a buffer there. That's a concrete slab attic, so we're confident that nothing would be able to fall down. A ceiling tile wouldn't get rattled loose or something. So that's the process we have in place, and we've been fortunate that anytime we had work there, that the students were not directly impacted by it.
And Matt, another question for you. I guess it's more of a general question for them. They're wondering, how do we vet someone that would come into the school and do the work while the students are there?
So we have something called Raptorware. So anytime a contractor student would come into anytime a contractor or a vendor would come into our school, their license is run through and it's able to tell us if they're on any kind of a list, if they're a nefarious person, it should not be in our building. And we have now at the high school have an added ASSO there with our SRO. Mm-hmm. So we've done what we could to bolster our security in that building. But that is the process we use for vetting. We also sometimes during the ESG project would work second shift if we were to have so many people that we felt the noise or the maneuvering of equipment and stuff was going to be too much.
Excellent. Another question from Amanda. She'd asked, shared rooms, the materials are are they labeled by the room or by the program?
By the room number.
So by the room number. So Amanda, by the room number. Lori had asked, was talking about summer school materials that were set up in the morning of the fire. Those would need to be returned to different schools in the district, not to mention personal items teachers brought in for students. So,
Again, everything in the classrooms were boxed, labeled by classroom, and they are stored at the Jarrett building. We will work with the school to have an orderly, and the reason it's got to be orderly is because, I'll be honest, we packed the building. It's like one of those things to live it. It's full right now.
I'm
So
sure.
if your room is number 342 and that's what's in front of the door, you're the first person that's going to get to go and look at that. The other thing we did, Matt helped a lot with this, is we had to do some cleaning of the lockers, so we started to move the locks. We found that many of the lockers had materials in them. And so we've set up a process where anything in a locker is also stored now in a container and labeled by that locker number. We spoke with the principal. He says he has the identification for the person identified by the locker number. So the school will be notifying the people in their lockers so that they can get the materials.
So typically, a student would have that locker for all 4 years. When freshmen leave, when seniors graduate, freshmen come in and they get that bank of lockers. I will let all of these students know now that next June, we will be clearing out all of our lockers the last week of school. So take it home, or you may lose it. You might find it at Goodwill that summer. Yeah, so that's going to be a policy going forward.
Right.
And Leslie says thank you. Leslie sits on the board here.
Thank
So
you,
thanks for
Leslie.
tuning in, Leslie. She says thank you to everyone for their hard work. And Cindy wanted to thank you guys for letting her know about the question of concerning graduation. And Christy said this building is so important to our community. Thank you to all for making it happen so quickly. That, as I said before, amazing. And JT Shem, who used to sit on the board, asked a question: is the town considering criminal charges given the actions of the former roofing contractor? Great question, JT. Right now, we're waiting actually for the formal summary from our fire marshal. So right now, we're waiting for that, and then before we really talk about any other actions, we have to wait for really the process to work, and that has to be the fire marshal giving us his formal findings. So Amanda then asked another question. Assistant Superintendent, so if we were in, she's making up 1, 2, 3, 4, we just go through all the boxes that were for that room, even though we were in that room for ESY?
Is this the summer?
So we're talking about the extended school year program. I will say on the point that was brought up about special education, so we actually, months ago, start planning what that's going to look like. We have a floor plan, we have rooms delegated to the robotics team, to the extended school year, to SPED. So we have a pretty good idea, we have a very good idea actually, of all the materials, what school they came from. So just for those in the audience that wouldn't know, if we have first graders coming to the high school, we have to bring chairs over from an elementary school. They cannot sit at the high school seats, obviously. So we know those were there, they were taken out, they were cleaned, they were documented, they will go back to that school, along with any kind of other ancillary things that came about with their program.
Excellent. Jessica says fantastic job to everyone. And I can't, I got a second, third, fourth, fifth that, Jack. So moving forward, I'd ask the superintendent kind of what the thoughts are for the kids and parents. And so, Jack, kind of moving forward, next steps in this process is you're telling me hundreds, almost 200 people now within there. So the next things are they're going to be doing the walls, the 3 floors, and then simultaneously the roof work will get done. How is that?
The idea is, we had that meeting and we'd like to start the roof work soon because, once we get to fall, you get to late September, early October, you start getting dew on the roof, it's difficult to work, it becomes unsafe to do early work. So we'd like to get started soon. And we can do these concurrently. I've managed other school projects where we've actually done schools over with students in the school. And I think the one thing I have said, several times is it's not going to be silent. When there's construction going on, there is some noise. But by the time the students get back, the majority of that should be gone because we're turning over probably 85–90% of the classrooms to the school. The areas that we're not turning over are in the crossovers. And so those areas can be sectioned off. The roof work itself, I don't remember that being that noisy overall.
We were fortunate we didn't have too many issues with that.
Yeah.
And like as I said, it's a daily process that we encounter.
So I think, Mary, these can go concurrently, and that way, by the time school ends next year, you're going to have almost a brand new school.
And Merlin, thanks for tuning in, Merlin. He says, good evening all. Thanks for all the great things that you do for our town and our school. And he goes, what is the name of the former roofing contractor? That would be United Roofing, correct, Jack?
Yes.
So United Roofing. And then Holly, kind of moving back again, for those parents and students to get more up-to-date information, where can they turn to moving forward?
For the high school or
Yep.
all?
For, let's do both, the high school and for
I mean-
the whole school system.
Absolutely. I mean, having a welcoming, being a welcoming community is our work. I know the schools, the leaders reach out to families, welcome them back. For the high school, we're going to work on making sure that communication is consistent and frequent. And so I will work with my colleagues at the high school to make sure that they're updating information that may be helpful and people curious. I encourage people to fill out questions, and then we'll put them under the frequently asked questions. That's helpful. So I think, I know there's questions like freshman orientation.
Yes.
How will we do that? So that is the magic of the administrative team at the high school. And I know that Mr. Manka and the assistant principals will be in touch soon in terms of addressing that in the best way. I think we need to see where we're at. Every day, I'm amazed from last Friday, today is Wednesday, it's a different place. So I imagine every day it just gets better and better. So I think we have to let that unfold, and I'll work with Mr. Manka and the team to sort of determine what is the best course of allowing families to come into the school. And I'm sure if you're a freshman parent, you want to make sure your
Absolutely.
child's okay, right?
I remember those days.
Yeah.
right, Wendy?
Yes.
I remember going in
Yes.
there.
It's a very popular event, and rightfully so. Parents are concerned. You have your child going into high school, they're making a transition, and quite frankly, with all that's gone on in this school in particular, you want to make sure that you're engaged, so we want to open up them.
Speaking of which, I just had a conversation with Ms. Skorlik, and we were talking about welcoming in our sixth graders. So everybody is thinking about that to make sure that we have the opportunity to make sure that children,
Transition.
that goes well, that's successful.
And here's a couple we have a late question and then a late comment. This is from Tony Vengrove, and I had this question posed to me before, and I kind of deferred it back. Is it possible to reconsider having the delayed opening for, I'm assuming it's either Scotticook Middle School or Sarah Noble, and the elementary schools? For many, especially families with two working parents,
Yeah.
this means arranging 2 additional weeks of daycare. Is anyone aware of local organizations that are planning additional day camps and assist parents during those 2 weeks? That part I can say, we have met. I've asked Jason O'Connor of our youth agency, and they are expanding those opportunities, so you can give the youth agency a call. I think there's some other daycares that may be available to do that. But Assistant Superintendent, if you could kind of explain to those that are watching or will be watching the recording, how hard that would be logistically with all the moving parts for that to even happen.
And I understand that, and I think everything happened very fast.
Very quickly.
And there were lots of moving parts. We certainly didn't want to be in a situation where we were waiting too long, because I think we were sensitive to just that fact, making sure that families had the information as soon as possible so they could make those arrangements. So I think it's hard to go back. I think if we had to anticipate anything lengthening with the high school, in my mind, everyone would have started K-8 on that date, and we would have taken care of the high school after, but that doesn't have to happen. So I understand that. I think, I know the board thinks about that as well, that's not the calendar that was published, but I think we were trying to make decisions quickly so that parents actually had the information sooner than later so they can plan.
That decision was also made in a snapshot time frame where you were looking at complete and utter devastation. And at that point in time, as you start to work through this process, we didn't really know what we're going to be time frame wise. It's absolutely apparent that the parents and the community will struggle with juggling their schedules. Trying to give as much notice as possible to help on that is important. With regards to the child care issue, it's a valid issue, and I know there's discussions going on. I know that you work with the youth, and perhaps I would encourage that if we can come out with some other ideas that you could push out to your website and something that we're missing, absolutely. Because it is a real concern, and when you have children in multiple schools and you have a change like this, it is a hardship, no doubt about it.
Absolutely. And then Tammy, McInerney, who serves on the board with you guys. She also said it's very grateful to all those who have been working tirelessly to open our high school, and to the first responders and so many surrounding towns that responded. And I know we were all there for the unfortunate fire, and we saw all those first responders coming from Banham, Kent, obviously our town, Mutual Aid from Brookfield and Danbury, and it was just amazing to see. And as we talked about, we were all standing there just watching these people not even think about it, just go right into the fire and up on those high-pitched roofs to save our school. Without them, we'd be talking about
Something else.
way something else, absolutely. So that's all the comments I see, right, Grant? I don't see any other ones, correct? Okay, kind of final words, Jack?
Well, Mr. Mayor, last night I was sitting there doing a few things on the computer, watching the Red Sox lose, and
My condolences, by the way.
thank you. It wasn't 28-3 though. Anyway, I started to try to make a list of everybody who's contributed and worked on this. You mentioned the fire department, but there's a lot of people behind the scenes. There's the finance department. There's Anthony. There's Greg Hasselbaum. There's the zoning department. You know, Laura. We've talked to Laura about where do we move parking, where do we do this. The building officials been. You know, Bill Murphy's been great. We call him. We set up 3 projects. He set up 3 projects like that. We have 3 projects that we're working on. Kevin Reynolds has been down to the school, the fire marshal, constantly. In fact, right now he's serving on the fire watch force right down there. So you go through, Mayor, your office, you know, Public Works. I needed 2 people to stay last night because I wanted somebody in the school overnight, and I got 2 volunteers right away to stay down. Well, you know, to stay down there and watch the school. So it's been just a collaborative effort, and I started making that list. I think at the end of the day, we want to make sure that everybody in the town knows how many people work together, how many departments work together to bring this together so that the school will open close to on time.
Amen. Matt?
You know, along those lines, Jack, I've even been impressed with vendors and contractors that we deal with. They're certainly sympathetic to our cause. We've been able to sort of expedite some things. You know, we bring in a company, for instance, to check out HVAC and those controls, our fire panel, those devices, and our sprinkler system. And they've helped work with us knowing what we're up against time-wise. So I will also take this moment with this captive audience to say we have 2 custodial positions, a maintainer position, and a deputy director position. So if you've got like a lazy brother-in-law's been on the couch since COVID, get up and get the game. We're hiring. So.
All right, okay. Holly?
My word is, well, first, gratitude for certain, thank you. And really for our families to know that it's about communicating. And so that you shouldn't be shy about asking questions. We'll try to be as communicative as we can be, but you know, there are things that are going through your mind that I don't know, that your building administrators don't know. So that's what we're here for. We're here all summer. I'm not going anywhere. The building leaders are finishing up their final days of rest and relaxation, and we're ready for your children pre-K through 12.
Outstanding. Wendy?
Well, the board continues its business. We obviously have positions that we have to take a look at. We have the normal board business that comes forward, but we also are working with everyone that we can to make sure that we can deliver what we know we can deliver. So I would ask that the parents and the community continue what they're doing. They're being patient. They're being extremely supportive in a very difficult time. We may have tweaks along the way. I don't know, but it'll always be, you know, through discussion and what we have at the time. So we'll get there. It's a really, really strong town. We'll get there.
Amen. Pete?
I think it's important to note that a lot of people are looking for a certain amount of certainty in everything we're doing here. And the only thing that I think we can guarantee with a certainty is everyone's working together to achieve that goal. And I just want to talk maybe just for a second about the character and the collaboration sort of aspect of it and how opportunity presents itself out of bad situations. I was talking to Jack on our walkthrough today, and we're talking about the air sampling and things of that nature. And some of the high school science teachers have reached out to Jack. Can you share that air quality data? And Jack is already saying, well, I'll come in and talk about that air quality data to your students. So this is the type of character of the people we have working on this activity. So, I mean, kudos, really kudos.
And Merlin asked a quick question before we sign off, last one. Is there any federal or state grants that the Board of Ed has applied for, or any emergency state funding or budget surplus to help rebuild the high school? So Merlin, here's some really good news. When we talked to the insurance companies, the contractor has, from what we believe, very adequate insurance, and everybody on the insurance end, from our insurance carrier to the former contractor's carrier to the bond insurance, is all about one thing, and that is getting this school open and getting those kids in school. So that's all the real good news. And then lastly, as our Board of Ed Chair, Wendy Faulenbach, had talked about, it's all about patience. We're still in the construction phase. We got some great news today, but by no means is this over.
That's it.
We're gonna continue working and pushing as hard as we can. Kind of, Pete, my kind of football equivalency, we're kind of on the 40, right? Driving into the end zone, but we gotta keep driving.
And we
Now,
need-
as a
and we
Jet
need-
fan, that's
and we
kind
need
of
the
difficult,
touchdown.
but
And we need the touchdown. We don't need a
amen.
field goal.
No field goal, touchdowns. So we're still gonna continue these. Every couple weeks, we'll still be back here, all of us, talking about, and Brian, you gotta drag Brian in, I think, too, Wendy. You gotta drag him
Brian
in.
texted me, he
Okay.
said, he couldn't be here tonight.
All right, we're gonna
but
still drag him
Thank you
in.
for mentioning, oh, Brian's coming.
Okay.
I told
All
him,
right, well,
so
make sure
he'll
he's
be
here
here.
too. Okay. And we'll keep updating the public. Please stay tuned to the high school or the Board of Ed site for all this information and questions you want to ask when it comes to curriculum, school information, all that's going to be housed there. We're going to continue pushing your information on our sites as well, plus all of the construction news as well. And then, as Matt said, if you're interested in employment, you can check that out on the website on the school board as well. So I really want to thank you guys again for your time tonight, helping out the public, letting them know more what's going on. I'm very excited. Great news again that we had today, and we're going to keep going. New Milford proud, New Milford strong. Thanks everybody for tuning in. See ya.